My son betrayed me to a bus driver at 7:42 in the morning, and I didn't find out until she was standing at my stop the next day, holding 2 coffees and an expression I couldn't read. I'm Daniel Okafor. I'm 34, I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm raising my son Theo on my own. He's 7. He's relentless. He's the best thing I've ever done and also a complete liability, as I was about to learn. Here's the thing, he told her, and to understand why it gutted me, you have to know it was true. I pack 2 lunches every morning, one for Theo, one for me. And the reason I pack my own, the reason I don't just buy the teacher cafeteria lunch like every other adult in the building, is the reason Theo, apparently, decided to share with the entire municipal transit system. I pack 2 so that when I sit in my empty classroom at lunch, eating the sandwich I made beside the one I made for my son that morning, it feels a little less like eating alone, like we made lunch together, even though he's down the road at the elementary school and I'm at the high school. 2 lunches from the same cutting board. It's a small, sad, private thing, and it got me through the lonely middle of every school day, and I had never told a single soul. Let me explain how the ritual started, because it tells you everything about the year and a half before Rosa. When my wife left, Theo was 5.5, the mornings broke first. She'd been the morning person, the one who did the lunches, the chaos, the getting out the door. With her gone, I had to learn all of it from scratch, badly, at 6 a.m. A math teacher trying to figure out how to braid the schedule of a kindergartner and himself into something that worked. And one of the first mornings, half asleep, grieving, I made Theo's lunch, and then, on autopilot, made a second one. Because I'd watched her make 2 for so many years that my hands just did it. 2 sandwiches. And I stood there in the kitchen at 6 in the morning holding a second lunch I hadn't meant to make. And instead of putting it back, I packed it. And ate it at lunch in my empty classroom. And it helped. The presence of a second lunch. The proof that I'd made it for someone, even if that someone was just me, made the empty classroom feel like less of a verdict. So I kept doing it, every morning, 2 from the same cutting board, a small ritual against the specific loneliness of being a man who used to do mornings with a partner and now did them alone, who ate lunch in a room full of empty desks while 300 teenagers ate in the cafeteria and his own kid ate a mile away. The 2 lunches were how I told myself I wasn't as alone as the empty classroom said I was. Theo told the bus driver, on her second day. Unprompted. It happened like this. I'd reconstruct later. There was a new driver on Theo's route. The old one, Mr. Pat, had retired, and the district brought in someone new mid-year. Her name, I'd learn, was Rosa Lindqvist. And on her second morning, making conversation with the kids the way good drivers do, she'd apparently asked Theo what he had for lunch, and Theo, who has no filter, who treats every adult as a confidant, who would tell a bank robber his PIN if the robber seemed friendly, said, "My dad packs 2 lunches, one for me and one for him. He eats his in his empty classroom so he's not lonely at lunch. He says it's like we ate together even though we didn't." And then, the detail that apparently did it. He's sad at lunch sometimes, but he doesn't want me to know, so I pretend I don't know. A 7-year-old, to a bus driver, on her second day. I knew none of this on the morning it happened. I'd handed Theo his backpack and his lunch, walked him to the stop, watched him climb onto the bus and wave from the window the way he does, and gone back inside to get ready for a day of teaching quadratics to teenagers who would rather be anywhere else. I had no idea my son had just handed a stranger the most private ache of my life. I found out the next morning. I walked Theo to the stop at 7:40, same as every day. And there was the bus, early, idling, and the driver was standing outside it, on the sidewalk, at my stop, holding 2 coffees. A woman about my age, maybe a little younger in the transit authority vest, with sandy hair pulled back and an expression of someone who'd thought hard about whether to do the thing she was currently doing and had decided to do it anyway. "Mr. Okafor?" she said. "Yes. Is everything okay? Is Theo—" "Theo's great. Theo's the best kid on my route, which I know they all say, but in his case, it's load-bearing to what I'm about to do, so." She took a breath. "I'm Rosa. I'm the new driver. And yesterday your son told me something, and I went home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I made a decision that's either really nice or really overstepping, and I genuinely can't tell which. So I'm just going to do it, and you can tell me which one it was." She held out one of the coffees. "He told me you pack 2 lunches so you don't have to eat alone, and that you're sad at lunch sometimes, but you hide it from him. And I—" She pushed the coffee a little closer. "I didn't know how you take it, so it's got cream and sugar on the side. I panicked at the gas station." I stood at my own bus stop holding nothing, staring at a coffee, while my entire interior life, the 2 lunches, the empty classroom, the sad I hid from my own son, got handed back to me by a transit employee at 7:42 in the morning. "He told you that," I said. "He told me all of it. Mr. Okafor, Daniel, can I call you Daniel?" Kids tell bus drivers everything. We're like bartenders with a CDL. I have learned more about the inner lives of the families on this route in 2 days than I learned about some people I dated for years. She was still holding the coffee out. "And most of it I just file away. But the 2 lunches thing, it's like we ate together even though we didn't thing. The hiding the sad from his kid thing. That one I couldn't file away. So I'm standing at your stop with a coffee, which I realize is a lot, because the alternative was knowing that and doing nothing, and I'm not built to know that and do nothing." From the bus window, a small voice. "Dad, that's Miss Rosa. She's nice. I told her about the lunches." "I'm putting that together, buddy. Was that a secret? You never said." And there it was, the same thing, the thing kids do, the taking you literally about the sad parts you never thought to mark as classified. I'd never told Theo the 2 lunches were private because it had never once occurred to me that he'd noticed, let alone that he'd narrate it to a bus driver. I took the coffee. My hands needed something to do. "He noticed," I said, to Rosa. Quiet, because the kids on the bus had ears. That's the part I didn't know he noticed. The sad part. I work so hard to make sure he doesn't see it. "And he just told you, on a bus, that he pretends he doesn't know because he doesn't want me to feel bad." I had to look at the coffee for a second. "He's 7. He's been protecting me. I didn't know that." Rosa's face softened. "Yeah. That's the part that got me too, honestly. Not the lonely lunch. Lots of people eat lunch alone. That's just adulthood. It was the kid pretending not to notice, so his dad won't feel bad. That's a 7-year-old doing emotional labor for his father. That's—" She stopped. "Sorry, I drive a bus. I don't know your life. But that landed on me, and I couldn't shake it." "How long have you been driving a bus?" I asked, because I needed a second to not be emotional at a bus stop. 6 months. Career change. I used to be a social worker." She said it wryly. "Which is maybe why I can't just file the sad stuff away. Old habit. I burned out hard, doing social work. The kind of burnout where you wake up one day and can't do it anymore. So I quit and got a CDL because I wanted a job where I could help people in small ways, without it taking everything out of me. Drive the kids safe. Learn their lives a little. Make a hard morning easier." She gestured at the coffee, at the whole improbable scene. "And then a 7-year-old tells me his dad eats 2 lunches to feel less alone, and apparently the social worker isn't all the way dead because here I am. Overstepping, with cream and sugar on the side." "It's not overstepping," I said. "I've been packing 2 lunches for a year and a half, and you're the first person who ever—" Nobody knows, Rosa. Not the other teachers. Not my family. I've been doing this small, sad thing completely alone, and a bus driver I met 30 seconds ago is the first person to ever just see it and bring me a coffee about it. I shook my head. That's not overstepping. That's the kindest thing anybody's done for me since my wife left. The words were out before I'd decided to say them, since my wife left, and Rosa caught them, the way she clearly caught everything. "Miss Rosa," Theo bellowed from the window, "are you gonna be at our stop every day now?" Rosa and I looked at each other. Neither of us had an answer to that yet. But I noticed I wanted the answer to be yes, and I hadn't wanted anything in a long time. She wasn't there every day. She had a route to run. She couldn't exactly idle the bus at my stop for a chat with 20 other kids waiting. But she started coming a few minutes early, and I started walking Theo down a few minutes early, and we'd have the 90 seconds at the stop. 2 coffees now, a regular thing. The most public-private courtship in the history of municipal transit. I learned her in those 90-second increments, the way you learn anyone on a schedule. Rosa Lindqvist, 32, ex-social worker, divorced. The burnout took the marriage with it. I had nothing left to give anybody, including him. And I don't entirely blame him for leaving, though I'd have liked him to try harder. She'd moved to our town for the fresh start, the bus job, the small, helpful life. She lived alone. She too, it turned out, knew a thing about eating lunch by yourself. "I eat mine in the bus," she admitted one morning. "In the lot, between routes. I used to eat lunch at a desk, surrounded by the worst days of other people's lives. Now I eat it alone in a parked bus and tell myself it's peaceful." She wrapped her hands around her coffee. "Your 2 lunches thing got me partly because I recognized it. The thing where you build a little ritual to make the alone feel less alone. I do it too. I just don't have a kid to make the second sandwich for." "You could have lunch with us sometime," I heard myself say. "Theo and me. We don't, he's at the elementary school, I'm at the high. We don't actually eat together, that's the whole sad point. But on weekends, Saturdays, we make pancakes. There's room at the table. We've got an empty chair and a kid who already adores you, and a dad who packs 2 lunches and could, in theory, learn to pack 3. Rosa went quiet. "Daniel, are you asking me to Saturday pancakes because your son ambushed me with your private business, or because you want me there?" "Both," I admitted. "It started as both. The second one's winning." The pancakes became the thing, the way these things do. Rosa would come Saturday mornings, and Theo would explain the rules of the house to her with the gravity of a small judge, and she'd fold in easy. An ex-social worker knows how to be in a kid's space without crowding it. She'd let Theo narrate. She'd ask him real questions and listen to the answers. And I'd stand at the stove making pancakes badly and watch a woman who used to carry the worst days of strangers for a living sit at my kitchen table giving my son her whole, undivided attention. And something I'd had bricked up since my wife left would crack a little further open each Saturday. The bus stop kept being our weekday thread. 2 coffees, then 3 sandwiches. The 90-second handoffs that everyone on the route eventually noticed. Because of course they noticed. 20 kids and their parents watching the new driver linger at the math teacher's stop with coffee every morning. The neighborhood put it together fast. It was Theo's friend's mom, Priya, who said it out loud, catching me at pickup one afternoon. "So," she said, with the bright directness of a woman who'd been dying to ask. "You and the bus driver." Not a question. "The whole stop knows, Daniel. She brings you coffee. She made your kids' lunch on Tuesday." Theo told my Anya, who told me, "The kids run a better intelligence network than the PTA." She softened. "I think it's wonderful. After everything, and don't make the face, everyone knew your wife left. It's a small town. You deserve someone who shows up at your stop with coffee." Theo's over the moon about her. He told Anya that Miss Rosa makes his dad not sad at lunch anymore. She squeezed my arm. That's the whole report from the Kid Network. He's noticed you're happier. Out of the mouths of babes. That landed, because it was the same thing. Theo, always, Theo, noticing the weather of my heart and reporting it to somebody. He'd noticed the sadness and handed it to a bus driver. Now he'd noticed the sadness lifting and handed that to his friend. My son had been narrating my inner life to the neighborhood this whole time, and somehow it kept saving me. I learned Rosa in those weeks, the weekday increments and the Saturday mornings both. Rosa Lindqvist, 32, ex-social worker, divorced. The burnout took the marriage with it. I had nothing left to give anybody, including him, and I don't entirely blame him for leaving, though I'd have liked him to try harder. She'd moved to our town for the fresh start, the bus job, the small, helpful life. She lived alone. She, too, it turned out, knew a thing about eating lunch by yourself. I eat mine in the bus, she admitted one Saturday after Theo had run off mid-pancake. In the lot, between routes. I used to eat lunch at a desk surrounded by the worst days of other people's lives. Now I eat it alone in a parked bus and tell myself it's peaceful. She wrapped her hands around her coffee. Your two lunches thing got me partly because I recognized it. The thing where you build a little ritual to make the alone feel less alone. I do it too. I just don't have a kid to make the second sandwich for. You've got two now, I said, nodding at the kitchen, at Theo's abandoned plate, at the whole improbable Saturday. A kid and a sad math teacher. We come as a set. A set? She said, and looked at me across the kitchen with something in her face that wasn't the social worker and wasn't the bus driver, just Rosa. And the pancakes burned a little because neither of us was watching them. The wobble was mine, predictably. About 2 months in, the old fear, Theo, the risk, what if she leaves too? And I started pulling back, going careful past the point of careful into actual retreat. Rosa, ex-social worker, read it instantly. You've gone somewhere, she said one morning at the stop. Theo already on the bus, the two of us in the cold. You've been clipping the conversations short for a week. I know the look. I spent a decade watching people protect themselves from the thing they actually wanted. So tell me, what's the fear? And because she'd been honest with me from the first coffee, I gave her the true thing. Theo's already lost his mom from the everyday, I said. She's there, she loves him. But she's not. She's not at the table. He felt that. He's 7, and he packs his sadness about it into pretending not to notice mine. And if I bring you all the way in, and it doesn't work, he loses someone else from the table. I don't think I can do that to him twice. So the fear is that wanting this is selfish, that I'm risking his heart for mine. Rosa was quiet a moment, then, can I tell you what I learned in 10 years of social work before it broke me? She looked at me. The kids who do okay aren't the ones whose parents protect them from every loss. You can't. Loss happens. The kids who do okay are the ones who watch a parent love anyway. Who learn that the answer to losing someone isn't to wall up. It's to stay open. If you keep me at arm's length to protect Theo from a maybe loss, the lesson he learns is love is too dangerous. Keep people at the door. He's already halfway there. He hides his own sadness to protect you. Do you want to teach him that's how it's done? Or do you want him to watch his dad be brave enough to let someone all the way in? Her voice softened. I'm not going to promise you forever. Nobody can. But I can promise I won't drift. I'm an ex-social worker who quit a career rather than half-do it. I don't half-do people. If I'm in loud, and you'll always know where I am. That's the difference between me and whatever taught you to pull back. I looked at her, in the cold, at my stop, and the fear that had been rebuilding for a week came apart. Okay, I said. All the way in. The careful way, for Theo. but all the way. All the way, she agreed. Now go teach quadratics and eat your third sandwich. I made it with the good bread. That was 2 years ago. Rosa still drives the route. Wouldn't give it up. She loves those kids. She says they're the best part of leaving social work behind. But she's at our table every morning now. Not just the bus stop, because she lives at our house, which became our house last spring when I married her in the backyard with Theo as the ring bearer and the official pancake supervisor, a role he takes with deadly seriousness. I don't pack 2 lunches anymore. I pack 3, Theo's, mine, and Rosa's, all from the same cutting board, even though all 3 of us eat them in different places across town. It's the same ritual, the same small thing to make the alone feel less alone. Except now it's not sad because there are 3 sandwiches from one kitchen and 3 people who belong to each other eating them apart. But together, the way we always sort of were. Theo, naturally, takes full credit for the whole thing, and he's right to. He's 9 now. He still tells everyone the story, how he told Miss Rosa about the 2 lunches, and she came to the stop with coffee, and now she's his stepmom. He tells it like he engineered it, and honestly, he did. He saw his dad's sadness, the one I worked so hard to hide, and instead of pretending not to notice forever, he handed it to a bus driver. Because some part of his 7-year-old heart understood that sadness you carry alone needs somebody else to know about it. I think about that a lot. The thing he said, he's sad at lunch sometimes, but he doesn't want me to know, so I pretend I don't know. My son was protecting me, carrying my loneliness quietly so I wouldn't feel worse about it. 7 years old, doing emotional labor for his father at a bus stop. And then a brand new driver heard it and couldn't file it away and brought a coffee and changed everything. And here's the part that still undoes me, 2 years on. The morning Theo told Rosa he wasn't trying to fix anything. He didn't have a plan. He's a kid. He doesn't think I'll set my dad up with the bus driver. He just had a sadness he'd been carrying for me, alone, for a year and a half. The way I'd been carrying mine, alone. And a kind stranger asked him a gentle question, and the sadness came out. Because that's what happens when somebody finally makes it safe to put a heavy thing down. He didn't engineer a romance. He just stopped carrying my loneliness by himself for 1 second and handed a piece of it to someone who turned out to be exactly the right person to catch it. Kids see the sad you hide. They always do. They just usually don't have anywhere to put it until a kind stranger on a bus asks them what they had for lunch. Thank God for bus drivers who used to be social workers and never quite stopped. What would you have done if your child handed a stranger the private sadness you'd worked so hard to hide, and that stranger showed up the next day determined not to let you carry it alone? Have you ever found out that the person you were protecting had been quietly protecting you the whole time? Tell me your story in the comments. If this one got you, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.